Representative Quayle, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program tonight. Great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so what can you tell us about this piece of legislation that you introduced last week and how it might impact the Fast and Furious investigation?
Well, as you have all been watching over months and months of oversight hearings and hearings also on the Judiciary Committee, which I sit on in the House, and listening to Attorney General Holder continue to skirt around the issues, continue to block the Justice Department from actually cooperating to the fullest extent possible with the various committees. And the fact that a lot of the information that they put out in the beginning was false, and it took them 8 to 10 months to actually retract that. And you have Agent Terry has been killed, hundreds of Mexican citizens have been killed, and thousands of weapons were allowed to get into very dangerous members of the drug cartels down in Mexico. And so I think, and this is what the bill says, is that it's the sense of Congress that only a special prosecutor that is going to be appointed by the president will be able to get to the bottom of this, because the DOJ has been so unhelpful in the investigations.
Yeah, that was one of the things we saw last week when the Attorney General was before the House Oversight Committee. The sheer number of documents that have been requested that have not been turned over 70,000 documents that the DOJ is still sitting on right now. And how can we ever get to the bottom of Fast and Furious when that much information is being kept from investigators?
You're absolutely right. It's not just the thousands of documents, but the documents that they do actually produce. Some of them are completely and totally redacted, which doesn't help in the cause to try to get to the truth. And this is a horrible operation from the very start. But we need to know who authorized it and who knew what when, and this is something we need to get to the bottom of so the American people can have some confidence in the Department of Justice, and Agent Terry's family can actually have some understanding of how this was allowed to happen and ended up with the death of their son.
You know, obviously, with you representing a congressional district in Arizona, I'm guessing that this is a topic you are hearing from your constituents about?
This is one of the most popular things to talk about and ask questions about on where we are in the investigation when I'm home, because it does directly affect Arizona. It put Arizonans in harm's way because the ATF and the Department of Justice allowed weapons to go into very dangerous criminals' hands, and they're crossing the border every day. And when we're actually allowing them to have this type of weaponry, it's just unconscionable.
You know, one of the things that I've really been struck by is the lack of coverage. I mean, even in Arizona, this story was really slow to get a lot of media attention. And even last week, we saw the major broadcast networks absolutely ignore Eric Holder's testimony. I think there may have been a brief mention on CBS's morning show the day afterwards. But, you know, what do you think about the lack of attention that is being paid, given the severity and the scope of this scandal?
Well, it goes to the common thread of that this media has really protected the president and his friends. And in this situation, I always try to think if this had happened under President Bush or another president, would they be of as much of a media blackout? Absolutely not, because this is a big scandal. This is a big issue, and we need to get to the bottom of this. And people should be screaming about this. And now that Attorney General Holder is now using some separation of powers issues by why they're not handing over the thousands of pages of documents, his tone in the latest hearing was extraordinarily dismissive to members of Congress who are asking legitimate questions to him. And the fact that there has been zero accountability. I asked him this question, if anybody should be resigned from the DOJ because of this, and he said no. So there's no accountability for this failed operation, which was fundamentally flawed from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Now, what about your colleagues in the House? I know that there have been more than 100 members of the House of Representatives who have called for Eric Holder's resignation. You are one of those individuals very early on calling for Eric Holder to step down. Do you think that this is an issue that, and I don't want to just say Republicans in the House, that all members, both sides of the aisle, is this an issue that they're paying attention to? Is this an issue that they're largely ignoring?
I think that they're starting on the Republican side, definitely, because this has been such a long investigation from both the oversight and from judiciary, and the fact that they can continue to stonewall our investigations that we're trying to get to the bottom of this. So this is a big issue to Republicans, and on the Democrat side, they haven't had to make it a big issue just because the media has not covered it really at all. There's been a few outlets that have given some very good coverage. There should be more. It should be on the nightly news every single night, but it hasn't had that. That hasn't happened yet. I think in the latest installment of the Democrats with their minority report, it was basically trying to have a scapegoat of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona. That was what I got the sense for the last oversight hearing.
Yeah.
Which is, I think you can see that sort of starting to build with the DOJ and the Democrats trying to protect the president and protect Attorney General Holder. But, I hope they don't try to let themselves become patsies down there, because they need to stand up and tell us, how this all got started, because it didn't start in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona.
Well, listen, Representative, I appreciate you coming on the program, sir, and all of your dogged attention and staying with this story. I look forward to talking again very soon, and thanks again for joining us tonight.
Thanks a lot, Cam. I appreciate it.
All right. Representative Ben Quayle joining us from Arizona here on Cam and Company.